All right, here we are. Oh my God, we're in the summer break, but you couldn't tell that, right? Because I have two gentlemen that have been watching, consuming the race, and they look like the race has consumed them. And so, uh,
That is
Shez,
exactly what has
Baxi,
happened. Yeah.
welcome live from the Hungaroring, hanging out by, what is it, turn 14? Still waiting on Lewis Hamilton to pass. No, I'm just kidding. Come on,
Oh,
before
ho,
everyone gets
ho,
all
ho,
riled up. Oh
ho.
my goodness. I'm not
Actually,
going
I
to do
might
any of this.
for you. That was quite funny. I like it. Have you been practicing
See,
that one?
I have been. I've been sitting on this. I've been sitting on a lot of things, but I'm generally sitting here defeated. But before we get into it, this was a fun race. I would imagine. I just want to throw it to you guys to see what you guys thought of the race. But what was the experience just sort of being there?
Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, we're acting as your plucky correspondents, attached as we are by a headphone umbilical cord.
Oh yeah.
Um, I talk all the time on this. Baxi, what did you think?
Try not to turn the mic off. That'd be a good idea. Yeah, no, it's great. It was my first experience at a race. I've never been to one before, and I absolutely loved it. We had an amazing seat as well. We were right by the chicane. So in this particular race, thanks to a certain Dutchman, we got a lot of action at points during the race. But what was also nice during the practice sessions and the qualifying is we could sort of see how the drivers were taking the chicane and how each car responded to it. And I think it really informed quite a lot of what then occurred during the qualifying session yesterday. There was a nice atmosphere there as well. Like there was so much to do. I bought a couple of hats, which was nice. Yeah, it was just a really fun, enjoyable weekend. And for a first race, I couldn't have asked for a better one. And it was a cracking race as well. So really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was quite amazing, and the race ended on time too. Shez, what did you do? It looks like Baxi's going to make it back home safe, so we're in the clear, Shez.
It's early doors yet, Omar. We've only just started. Well, look. First of all, if you're going to go visit a race in Europe, definitely go to the Hungaroring. Like the people were absolutely lovely. It was really multicultural as well. There are lots of people from everywhere that had turned up. Fans of every description. We were sat next to a couple of Lewis Hamilton fans, and behind us there were a couple of Max Verstappen fans. I ended up cheering for Max right the way through the race just because I'd made a pact with the guy behind me. It was great. It was super fun.
Wow.
But the track itself, I think when we're talking about Formula One, designing circuits and where we take the circus, places like the Hungaroring, places like Brazil, Sao Paulo, they have this sort of natural amphitheater setup, where you have a track in the middle of a bowl, and all of the grandstands are around looking down on it. So even though, as Baxley said, we were at the chicane, turn 6 and 7, we could see the drivers coming through turn 1, far off in the distance, and then we saw them come through turn 4, come round turn 5. And then go through the chicane. So all of the hijinks that happened between Max and Lewis, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a few minutes. We saw it, went ooh, and then saw them come round again as well. It was cool. You could watch how drivers were setting up their moves. You got an idea of what lines drivers were taking and how those developed over the course of the weekend. It was really obvious. When drivers were really, really on it, really pushing when their tyres were in their prime versus when they were sort of backing off and trying to manage a stint. So yeah, it's nuanced stuff that I think you don't really get to see when you're watching it on screen. But yeah, I wouldn't have missed that. It was super, super fun.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you guys enjoyed. We'll go ahead and start a fundraiser for you guys to make it to the next race soon. So hopefully we'll get a lot of money for that, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're going to market a GoFundMe that has you, me, and well. Baxley going to. Oh no. Well, Baxley might be indisposed. That funds me to go to another race. Yeah,
There
if you
you
can
go.
do it
There you
though,
go.
I'm happy.
That's always been our goal in doing this, no? Like just make enough to go be able to attend races. So there we are. Well, I'm glad you guys had a great time.
No.
No, no. At least it's mine. It was a fun race, yeah. Even watching it from my iPad in a hotel room, it was quite fun. It was actually I take that back. It was not fun for me for obvious reasons we'll get into. But this was a great race if you're a neutral fan, and we should get started with the obvious place, which is McLaren secure on 1-2. But good God, we can't even celebrate that without being critical, right? So, what did you guys make of that?
Yeah, I'll get first crack at this. Yeah, so I was backing Lando. Shez was backing Oscar. I'm now on a 5-race win streak. That's all I have to say in my prediction little battle. Yeah, no, look, I thought that I didn't have a problem with what happened. I think that Lando got a bad start and McLaren needed to find a way to get him to the front of the grid because Lando's made it perfectly clear that he wants to win every race between now and the end of the season, which for a driver in his position, he should absolutely aspire to. And he knows the only person that he needs to beat realistically is Oscar. So they thought, let's try the one stop. I don't think it, I mean, we thought, oh, it's a bold call. I mean, when we were watching it in real time, we thought, oh, are they going to back Lando into Charles to then allow Oscar to get past? No, they just decided to do the one stop. And the team and Lando executed it perfectly. I mean, McLaren had 2 1.94 second pit stops today, which is just ridiculous. And I thought Lando drove a great race on that one-stop strategy. Yeah, iffy start, that's what you expect from Lando. But it was really well executed. Any indication that Oscar got screwed in any way? I mean, look, that's Formula One. Like the team didn't deliberately screw him out of a race win. It's just that they, as I said to a few people, the interest of the team will always come before the interest of the drivers. And in the interest of the team, it was to get Lando further up the field. Yes, they're miles ahead in the Constructors' Championship, but they haven't won it yet. And McLaren want to win it as soon as possible so they can then let Oscar and Lando take the gloves off and do what they need to do. But I thought it was a great drive from both. And I think Lando was a worthy winner today, that's for sure.
Chaz?
What did you think, Amar?
Well, I thought this was a very interesting race, a fun race, and just as an upshot, right? We've had, what is it now, 13 races in the season, right? There's not been a single race where someone has come to win from, what is it? He started P3, but he went P5, right? Lando, is that correct? So to come from P5 to win a race, right? I mean, I have a running joke with my cousin who will always watch these races and say, well, if you lead after turn 1, it's pretty much over, right? And that was, further from the truth in any which way that you could think about this. So, but I cannot recall another race this year where someone from Lando's position has come and won on just genuine pace and race strategy and nothing, no safety cars, no rain, etc. Nothing, just simply everything on track, right? I found that to be an interesting race. And for me, I have been anti-Lando criticism for a while now, and I think this just proves it, Chaz. You and I have bantered and argued about this several times, and I've said, when push comes to shove, he will either arrive and win the championship in a way that we would all respect and not walk away thinking, oh, it was flukish, right? As would our thumbnail would suggest. But I think that he arrived at the championship really today, because that's exactly how he did it. He lost 2 places in the start, but then kept those tires running for the first stint was so long, right? It was about as long as Alonso, right? Maybe a couple laps before Alonso he came in. And then, yeah, something like that. And so, I mean, it was quite amazing that he made it work. And by the way, I mean, we say all of that, and Piastri had all the advantage towards the end, right? I mean, again, you guys were at the track, but looking at it from the TV, they about came together at the penultimate lap too, right? And Oscar had the advantage. He had the tire offset, right? It was just that close. So kudos to him for winning. I kept fearing, Chaz, the last couple laps, if Lando somehow managed to go off track or Oscar passed him, like that would have changed the narrative. So I think for me, this is the upshot is he's back in the championship, well and truly.
Well, can we just have a quick chat about what actually happened, like the story, as it were? So your best friend Charles Leclerc started on pole.
Uh,
Absolutely magical lap, like absolutely magical lap. That go check out our telemetry video from yesterday. Amar has gone through so many emotions in the last 48 hours. We've had to send him off to counselling.
I didn't even bring my TifosiTears.com bottle today, so
That's the worst thing about it. Lando lined up third, Oscar lined up second, and on the run down to the first corner, Charles and Oscar headed out of it line astern. But poor old Lando got gobbled up by Fernando Alonso and George Russell, who both ended up in front of him, knocking him down, as you say, to fifth. So he was suddenly in damage limitation mode, as he often seems to be off the start. I mean, who am I to read too much into that? And we thought that actually this was probably going to be a fairly straightforward duel between Charles and Oscar, and that's how it seemed to play out for the first stint. At least I kept turning to Baxter and whispering very, very quietly, so my Max Verstappen friend behind me couldn't hear. That I thought Charles Leclerc might actually win this, and Baxter constantly said, "No, I have to win the prediction. It can't be him. I have to win the prediction." But that all turned on its head, because after the first round of pit stops, Lando just kept going, and then just kept going, and then just kept going. And yeah, at the point that we thought that he was just going to back Charles into Oscar and give Oscar a run at the Ferrari, Lando just came in. We were like, what the hell? What the heck's going on here? Have McLaren lost a pot? Do they have to do a Ferrari and sack Randy Singh? But no, it turns out they didn't. What had actually happened was, unbeknownst to everyone, Lando Norris had been put on the ideal strategy. Who knew? Lando didn't know. McLaren didn't know. Oscar apparently didn't know, because he was shouting down the radio saying, I want to be on the strategy that's going to beat Lando. That's what I want. But it's not quite what happened. And in the end, Oscar ends up on the less good strategy, is undercut by the Ferrari in the second stint. So it comes out. No, he isn't.
No,
he undercut the Ferrari. Sorry, my bad. Has to get past George Russell on track. Beautifully done, by the way. But eating up the precious life in those tires, and it meant that when he actually finally got to Lando, there just wasn't enough tire. There just wasn't enough time. This track wasn't quite conducive enough. So the reason that the thumbnail for this video is entitled Lucky is because, despite the fact that he qualified behind his teammate, despite the fact that he had an awful start, despite the fact that he ended up behind two other drivers, Lando Norris managed to luck into the best strategy. Maybe because of those things, he managed to luck into that strategy. And I'm not going to lie, he drove an absolute blinder. Like he was quick when he needed to be quick. He defended well. He managed his pace. And you know what? By the time Oscar actually got up close to him, it was tense, but there was a feeling that he probably wasn't going to get past at that point. You know, it wasn't. Oh, got dissent in the ranks. But my contention here is that Lando got in that position by being not as good as his teammate, and I guess that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But I think that needs to be said.
Yeah, I just want to come in. So, just kind of when Oscar was closing in, I think we did think that maybe it was going to happen in the last couple of laps, but our contention was that he maybe went a lap too early. So he probably should have waited until the beginning of the last lap to then make the move, because his move felt like a bit of a dive bomb, but he was getting closer and closer and closer every single lap. But if he just waited that extra lap, he probably gets the move done and wins the race. And we're having a very different discussion right now. But as it was, he dive bombed and just left that little bit too much of a gap to Lando, which meant that when they got there on that final lap, the move was never on and he couldn't make it. So it's a frustrating one for Oscar, and I fully understand why he's annoyed. But I think we also have to credit Lando, because it was a superb drive, a great defensive drive as well, because I thought maybe he's going to make a mistake at some point, which will allow Oscar through. And I described it to Shez as we were walking away from the track that it felt like we were watching a driver level up in real time. Now, there's still a few things that he needs to iron out of his game. Like, he needs to be more consistent in qualifying. He needs to be better at chasing, which is definitely a flaw of his. But this felt like a step forward for him. And it felt like a bit of a psychological blow that had been landed on to Oscar.
Yeah, and I would agree that the final stint was exactly that. I think Lando was flawless in that final stint. He was actually flawless at all points in this race after the start. But the problem is that he wouldn't have been in that position were it not for underperformance on Saturday and underperformance off the start line. So again, there's still a mistake within Lando Norris, and you still can't say he had a perfect weekend. But perhaps, Amar, that is the problem. That actually, if he hadn't had that misfortune, I'm going to call it misfortune, just to give him the benefit of the doubt, then maybe he wouldn't have been on for that strategy. I don't know, but there always seems to need to be a caveat behind everything, because Oscar didn't perform worse than Lando. In fact, he performed better than Lando across the entirety of the weekend. But actually, Lando's underperformance worked for him and put him on the better strategy. That doesn't sit right with me, and I'm sure it doesn't sit right with Oscar. And to the point about Oscar's confidence being shaken going into the summer break, or Lando landing a psychological blow, I think Oscar will go back to his boat, or I don't know, to Melbourne, whatever, and think, yeah, you know what, fine, he beat me on track, but he wasn't actually better than me, and that will probably make him feel quite a lot better. Go on, Amar. I know you're itching to say something.
I mean, I was just counting the number of qualifiers you put in there. I mean, you cannot just for one time say Lando won. Like, there has to be all of this, kind of bits and pieces you throw out there. Like, I mean, it just, you know what? I mean, sometimes you just got to put your mind aside, watch what you're watching, and then react that way. No, you're absolutely correct, Shez. I mean, look, it does take a little bit. It does take a little bit of luck to win, and he did it. I mean, look, this reminded me of Monza in sort of the opposite direction, right? But Oscar was again sort of losing here too. But you saw what Lando. This was a little bit like a Charles Leclerc kind of drive. I mean, to be honest. So yes, and again, as I pointed out earlier, this race was unusual in that, again, you would never expect someone from P5 to kind of come up there and win. And then also, I mean, I think Ferrari helped Lando out too in that regard, and we can get into that as well. So there were many little things that happened that went towards Lando, but fortune favors the brave, and he was brave, and he did everything right. By the way, on that turn one, like, I mean, if he hadn't backed away right from Oscar at the beginning, he would have probably T-boned Oscar at that point too anyway, so that would have been a different thing. So this is the problem with McLaren being so conservative in that race, but like, okay, you can't really I don't know. So it is what it is. I mean, we can beg to differ on.
What, you can't crash into each other? I think that's a good thing.
I mean, well, you should tell Oscar to do that on the penultimate lap.
I quite like the way that these guys go racing.
Well, I mean,
as in McLaren in general, because they're allowing two fairly equal drivers.
Yeah,
with my tongue in my cheek a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised you're saying that, but okay, go ahead.
And they let them race. They don't favor one or the other on strategy. I mean, like, if we're being really not pernickety, but really critical of McLaren, they could have done what they did last season and say to Lando, mate, you're kind of lucked into that. Do you want to swap over? And that is something.
Oh, come on, no, please.
Yeah, no, complete total nonsense. Total nonsense. But it's stuff that I've heard. But that's not what they're doing.
Tired now.
They are letting a race strategy play out organically, even if there was a mistake that let it happen in the first place. But
I mean, the downside of not allowing for a race like this to happen is the guy who's ahead at turn one is going to win the race. There's no point then racing the other, 50, 40, 70 other, whatever else is left. So you got to have something in there for both drivers. And McLaren at the point where, look, the one thing this race showed us is the gulf between them and the next team, whoever it is so far. Like they could have 2 double DNFs the next couple races, it wouldn't even matter. I mean, it's just, they have to be really, really crazy to kind of lose it. So I don't think the Constructors' Championship is in any doubt whatsoever with the whatever
but
11
we're not
races that are
interested
left.
in
But
we're not
right,
interested in the
so
constructors particularly. And to your point, Omar, actually they could very easily say whoever goes into the first corner wins the race. In fact, that's what McLaren are famous for doing. Think back to the 1998 Australian Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard had to swap places because one driver got into the first corner first, and McLaren deemed it unfair for the other driver to win. It's total nonsense.
Quite a shame. Yeah,
and it leads to the kind of controversy that we had last season, which we're not going to have that controversy this season. You're just going to hear me on my usual soapbox.
No, I think that's fine. And what we have now is a very evenly matched championship fight, right? That's what you want, right? Going and Baxi, I'll turn it over to you. But it's exciting as a neutral fan, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased that they're allowed to fight. I mean, there seems to be this misconception that they have this like really dominant car. I mean, it's dominant, but it's not like Mercedes 14-16 dominant. It's not like where they can skip off into the distance and just do what they want. Like they had a Ferrari in their way who was causing them problems. And they had to cover him off just as much as they had to cover each other off because Charles was fast. I mean, we were noticing during the first and second stint that he was pulling away from Oscar, and Oscar could never really get to within that 1 second window. He was always like sort of 1.5, but yeah, it was a fantastic race by both of them. In these situations, one guy has to win and one guy has to lose, and I felt Lando deserved it today, but if Oscar had won, he would have been equally as worthy. But that's just the way the tiles fell today. On another day, it might have gone a different way. So, but credit to both of them. And some people are saying this is a boring championship. I'm loving it. Like I'm not as invested in it because I'm not either a Lando or an Oscar guy, but it's still great fun to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out after the summer break.
Yeah. I'll just say one final thing on this, Shaz. I think this race was amazing for what the rest of the season will set up to be, right? Because as Baxi said, if you're a neutral fan, this is amazing. You really don't know who can win. And Shaz, you can say one driver is more deserving than the other, the guy who's quicker than, but this is racing and this is how things go. And you never know where it's going to, I mean, the roles could be reversed the next time where Lando looks like he was the guy to win. I mean, that's what I thought in Belgium, for example, right? He had done the hard part and then he sort of gave it away on Sunday, but couldn't really recover. Today he had the chance to do so, and he did it. And every race is going to be different because every track is different. And I think these other guys, I think it's fair to call the other guys, right? I mean, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Max, dare I say Lewis on the odd occasion might just be a hindrance, right? And they might end up playing
annoyances, aren't they? That's all they are. They're just.
I mean, today Charles is just an annoyance because just look at how quickly the Ferrari fell off the radar. Like, Shaz, the irony of this is like, whatever you say about McLaren, right? I mean, the only criticism you can give today is while they were trying to focus on their drivers, they couldn't take their eye off Charles, and they really should have just completely ignored him. But then again, you didn't know what Ferrari were going to show up with, and I guess we should have known.
Correct.
So there's that.
Okay, can we move to Ferrari, because
yes,
I think that's definitely that's definitely something that needs to be hit on the head. Can we just deal with the McLaren covering Charles Leclerc, please? Because yes, I take your point,
okay.
And this has been leveled earlier today as well in some of our private chats, that McLaren should have just forgotten about the fact that Charles Leclerc was even there, and Oscar should have just covered Lando. That's he's the only person that he should have worried about. And in fact, if he had just worried about Lando, then perhaps he would have also been on a one-stop strategy, and it would have been status quo to the end. Yes, perhaps, but nobody knew that Charles was going to be quite as slow as he was in the second stint. In fact, Charles didn't even know. He suddenly found that on lap 40, wait a second, my car's undrivable. He started screaming and shouting at the pit wall. Very unlike Charles. I'm joking.
Sorry, I'm being patient.
but actually he controlled the first stint pretty convincingly. You know, it's been between 2.5 and 3 seconds ahead of Oscar. He seemed to be very, very comfortable in that position. And in fact, it was Piastri that pitted first, wasn't it, in the first?
Correct. Undercut, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, to try and force the undercut. But that was actually really unlikely to happen because Charles had managed the gap really, really well. So I'm not sure I completely buy the argument that they could have just forgotten about the Ferrari because it was an actual roadblock. Even if Oscar was faster, in that first stint, he wasn't really able to show. And actually, probably the only way to get past him would have been to go really long, which they did with the other car. And that's the whole point of having two cars up in the top 2 or 3 is to split your strategies. Otherwise, as you say, the outcome will always be known.
Yeah, and we'll go to back here, but I'll just quickly say, Shaz, if you were McLaren, you had to account for Leclerc because look at how the 3 practices were and look at what Charles did on Saturday. So, you know, imagine what we would be saying here today if they had lost the race to Charles, right? And no one could have imagined what happened, but I guess I did. There's a part of me that expected for that something Ferrari like to happen, and it did. So I guess you could argue it both ways. Baxi, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, as I already said, I think McLaren were right to cover Charles because he was the only car other than the Astons on Friday that looked like they would get anywhere close to McLaren. You know, the pole position was a massive surprise. We actually missed it on the screen when it happened. But then everyone around us, there were loads of Ferrari fans around us, and they just went mad when it happened. I mean, there was one girl next to me that was nearly in tears because it was just the shock of it that because no one saw it coming. And it was a beautiful lap. He was the only driver to improve from Q2 to Q3, as Shez brilliantly covered in your video yesterday. And he just produced one of probably his best qualifying lap, I'd have to say. I can't think of one that was better than that. Finding the right grip and everything else to deliver that lap time. But I kind of felt like a McLaren 1-2 was inevitable today, regardless. And he actually surprised me with how well he drove in the first 2 stints. But then, the drop-off of pace in the third and final stint was weird. He just had nothing at all. He then said it was a chassis issue on lap 40. And then George Russell comes out with his tin hat and says it's something completely different. Which I'm sure Shez will explain far more eloquently than I can do. But today was just a bad day for Ferrari. It was a bad day. What the hell were they doing putting Lewis Hamilton on hard tyres? That was a dreadful decision. I mean, the minute we saw that, we just looked at each other and went, he's in for a day of pain because he would be stuck in the DRS drain. Then obviously there was the stuff with Max, which we'll talk about it, but it'll probably take about 2 minutes because I'm sure we'll all agree with each other. And then, the one criticism I have of Charles specifically was that he was clumsy in his defense of George. I know he was trying to hold on to something, but I mean, outbreaking yourself and then hitting him was silly and he deserved the penalty, but it was no harm really because it was, he was so far ahead of Fernando at that point. But, difficult day for Ferrari, but it's one of those days that Ferrari always have, where it's like signs of encouragement, but that's all it is, and then you never see the encouragement bear fruit.
Shez, hit me.
I feel like Ferrari's hit you hard enough as it is, mate. More is there to say?
I have so much to say. They might kick me out of the hotel room with my family.
Okay, all right. Well, let me get in quick before you monologue for like the next half hour.
Put you guys to bed.
Look, Charles' pole lap was incredible, but I think Sunday demonstrated just how magical that lap was because that pace was not in the car come race day. Whatever happened in the final stint, I don't think I can necessarily explain it. Charles came out with some vague thing about, there's something with the chassis. He thought in the middle of the race that they'd adjusted his front wing, but then he magically, as usual, changes his mind. And then George comes up with some, like, I mean, I don't know, like you can't really trust what George is saying, I don't think, because he doesn't have the information in front of him, and he is known to stir the pot. He's really bloody good at it as well.
That's why we love him.
Yeah. But he seemed to imply that this is another recurrence of Ferrari's plank wearing issues, which we thought rear suspension update was going to completely solve. It seems not to have done that. And actually, you know, when we were watching Lewis during qualifying and during practice, there always seemed to be this impression that he was braking really late, but then the car would just let go in the middle of the. You could see it on 2 of his qualifying laps as well, where Charles is able to just jump across the curbs and take the second part of the chicane really smoothly. Lewis has got a big snap in the middle of it, and then he's on his way as well. Again, which to me suggests that there's no way that he can properly trust the rear end of his car. Charles maybe was able to trust that a bit better, but they ultimately reverted, you know, towards the mean again. You would have expected the guy that was on pole to at least finish on the podium, even if we thought a McLaren 1-2 was on, but he didn't even manage to do that. And yeah, you know, I quite enjoyed his defense of George Russell, even if I thought it was completely unnecessary. It was quite fun to do, but it's all the messaging that comes out after the race. You see a race, you think you understand what's going on, and then you get all the cryptic messages afterwards. DBC in the chat has quite aptly said that he needs a psychiatrist to understand what's going on at Ferrari. I think they need a psychiatrist, man. I don't really understand what they're doing. It's this Charles at one point, even before qualifying, saying, I can't tell you what the upgrades are like. There's stuff I want to tell you, but I don't want to tell you, and I can't tell you because there's stuff going on in the background. Lewis had that absolutely shocking interview with multiple outlets after qualifying yesterday. I felt so bad for him. This is a 7-time world champion, an athlete who should be close to the top of his game, and yet he's making comments like that. And then after the race again, there's stuff in the background I can't tell you about it, which always seems to come out when Lewis has had a bad race or a bad session. You know, what does that all mean? It's so odd what's going on at Ferrari, and I don't think we're going to get any answers in the summer break. But I do hope that at some point at the end of this season, all this cryptology is at least explained somewhat, or at least they just tell us, yeah, Lewis was just awful this season.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah, I completely agree. Shez, all is not well in the house of Maranello. Yeah, they've had some decent results in spite of that. I mean, I've been very critical about the decision to change the concept of the car. I know Shez disagrees with me on that, but yeah, my view is, why change a concept that was 14 points off winning? Now, do they stay with the McLarens? Probably not, because I think McLaren have kicked forward this season, but they could at least be a little bit closer. They're still P2, but they are so far behind. I mean, Oscar and Lando have scored more points themselves than anyone else in the Constructors' Championship. That's how far ahead McLaren are and how well they've performed. But speaking as a Lewis fan, like, it was heartbreaking to see him like that yesterday. But he kind of put a bit more meat on the bones today, saying he's just got this feeling and he's not happy. I mean, you know, it's got all the hallmarks of him saying he wants to get out of there, which I don't think he does. But you know, it leaves you wondering about next year. You know, how Ferrari just seem to once again be dropping the ball, and I think, yeah, I just don't have confidence in Ferrari for next year, let alone for the rest of this season. And it's going to be tricky. It's going to be very, very tricky going forward. And you know, the best news they had this weekend was Fred's got a contract extension. That's literally it.
Don't you guys feel though that there was a massive change in tone over the course of the weekend? Like in the Thursday press conference, you know, Lewis is sort of talking about how he's pushing the team, how he's in all the meetings, like he's giving them presentations, he's giving them stuff, and like he's doing all this stuff because he really wants to win a championship with Ferrari. He doesn't want to be in the same boat as his contemporaries Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso. He sounded really upbeat, like they're listening to me. We're having constructive conversations. These things are going forwards in a way that I like. The developments are stuff that I want to see on the car. And then on Sunday afternoon, it's not even I had a bad Sunday. It's there's something going on in the background. Like where was all of that when you were talking so positively about the team on Thursday? Go on, Amar. I know you've got a heap you want to say.
I mean, there is so much to it, but since we're on the Lewis Hamilton topic, right, we should circle back to Charles because I think he needs to get the hell out of there. But I was really disappointed to see the Lewis talk, right? Because I mean, this is not what you want to hear from a 7-time. And remind me, Shez, Baxter, you guys would remember this. Didn't he have a similar sort of tone on one of the weekends last year? Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. But I think it was just like completely resigned.
Yeah, so he had a couple of weekends last year. There was definitely, I think, Monaco last year where he basically said, I'm not going to out-qualify George for the rest of the year, which was a really weird thing for him to say, which then led the certain fan bases down the sabotage rhetoric, which was just complete nonsense.
Yeah, I do wonder when that's going to come up again.
That's going to start now, trust me. It's already started in the real fringes. But I feel like it was just really difficult to see Lewis like that. Normally when he gets down like that, he then produces a performance on the Sunday, but he just couldn't do that today because Ferrari's strategy was dreadful. And it's different. This feels different to the Mercedes stuff last year because I think with Mercedes it was to be expected because he's leaving the team, whereas this is his first season with a new team and cracks are already starting to show. Like he was saying, I didn't talk to the team or something along those lines, didn't he? Like the implication is almost like they're not listening to the drivers, which is completely ridiculous if that's the case.
So go ahead, Chad. Go ahead.
But you go.
Well, so the problem with what Lewis is doing right now and his body language suggests to me is that he wants to leave. That's what this is. I mean, look, Shez, Baxter, I mean, we have talked about Ferrari being like, any fan that's watching knows how Ferrari operates. And Lewis would have ample information about how Ferrari operates because, he's been competing against them. They're next door in the paddock and everything, and everyone knows everyone, and you have all your stories. So I don't understand what Lewis Hamilton was coming into because 6 races ago, the tone was, and the message from Lewis was, well, I'm just here to acclimate myself. I'm trying to understand how things work, how, this is setting up for next year, yada, yada, yada. And then fast forward to, as you were saying, Shez, a couple of weeks ago, I'm sending printouts and having meetings and all. You recognize that almost sounds borderline disrespectful, right? And look, Ferrari are not great, right, in terms of how they operate, but they're not duds either. I mean, we're not talking about, a Sauber Haas team or something like that was in the middle of a rut. And I think Lewis has just sort of missed the mark on that in terms of, you don't need to say any of these things, by the way, Shez, Baxter. You may be doing all these things. You do not have to go there and report it out to the world. You do not, because real leadership does not involve saying things out loud. It's about taking care of things behind the scenes. And the reality is that either Lewis was too optimistic and thinking about maybe changing the way Ferrari works, or it's just a misfit in terms of culture and approach and all of the above. Because on the other side of the garage, you have a guy who is loyal to a fault, and Lewis is saying all kinds of things that, I mean, look, guys, we are, what is it, 48, 72 hours removed from a lot of Twitter and stupidity around how's that Charles build and all of this stuff, and look what Lewis turns up with. I mean, who does he blame for his qualifying performance? And today, fine, in the race you can say, so in the race you can say the tire strategy was wrong, but it's not like it would have made that much of a difference given where Charles was at. So in the end, I mean, a lot of the damage was done yesterday and the week before, by the way, and there was a lot of talk about him being accused of lying and all of that. I would say the fact that you get a lot of pushback from folks that are critical of Lewis and particularly Lewis Hamilton fans is every time he has failed to do what we had expected of him and maybe he expects of himself, he's always said something to the effect of, oh, well, there's something going on in the background and there's a part that was on Charles' car before. And, you know, you don't have to say any of those things. You could just say, look, it didn't work out this time, right? This qualifying session, I couldn't nail it, or we had a miscommunication or mishap. It could be left there, but he chooses to be open in a way that makes himself vulnerable. And you have to be careful what you say in the media. I mean, particularly with Ferrari, we've covered this. They're gonna jump on your back too. So I don't know what he's talking about in terms of what's happening behind the scenes, because 2 races ago, it was all about I'm helping them move forward. And now either you're not helping them move forward or they're not listening to you. Which one is it? I can't be both things.
Yeah, I mean, in response to some of that, like, I think, first of all, like, it's not just Lewis who's saying that. Charles also been saying that there's things going on. And I think, you know, for Charles to be saying that is big, because he is, as you say, loyal to a fault. And I completely agree with you. His championship ambitions have to go above his championship ambitions at Ferrari. I'm sure that's a discussion for another day. But I feel like Lewis being like that is kind of just, it's part of who he is. And I think it's what endears him to so many people, much in the same way when Lando Norris gets, you know, in his own head sometimes and gets disappointed. It's just part of their personality, and we want drivers to have a bit of personality, both good and bad. You know, and it's maybe the Ferrari fans don't like it because they're not used to that from a driver, but that's just who Lewis is. And it's you know, it's, you just got to kind of roll with it, basically.
Well, I mean, Baxi, I would just say quickly, I appreciate Lando being honest, right? But a lot of his criticism is self-criticism, right? And a lot of what Lewis does is, barring what he said after qualifying, which I would have never hoped to hear from him ever, and I would never want to hear from him again. He's always kind of put qualifiers in there that say there's X happening or Y happening. And my simple thing is, this season, no one expected Lewis Hamilton to win anything, in part because no one expected Ferrari to win anything. And he is a new driver, and coming to a new team, there would be struggles.
That's definitely
not true.
This is coming from a Tifosi. Trust me, I did not expect them to win this year, even with the.
Yeah, I had guys telling me that Charles was going to win the championship this year.
No, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have won it, because you saw how dominant McLaren were, right? And okay, that's a different topic for another. The reality is, you would have said that there is, you know, very few chances for Lewis to be competitive this year. We could have all just said, look, this first year, going into a new rule set, just get acclimated with the team, get everything going, line up for next year. So I don't understand why we've moved the target on that, right? Couldn't it just be, hey, I'm just going through growing pains and next year will be better? Or, and let me throw this, I'll throw it to you guys. This rule set, he has stunk. That's just it. Maybe that's just it, because Shez, you have established how George Russell has beat him at Mercedes, right? For the 3 years that they were together, right? 3 years that they were together. Lewis himself has talked about he's struggling to adjust to these cars of this generation, and maybe that's just it. Maybe he just doesn't work with this generational cars, and that's about it. Why does it have to be anything more than that?
Because I think you're misunderstanding a Formula One driver, any Formula One driver, not just Lewis Hamilton. They're there to win. They don't care. Like, they'll come in with all the caveats. They'll come in with all the logic, all the caveats. This is just a building year. I'm just trying to get acclimatized with the team. I just want to understand how they work. Sod that. When they get in the car, they want to freaking win. That's it. They don't care about anything else. And Lewis more than anyone else, because he has done more winning than anybody else.
You can say that, Chaz, but it's race 13 now. Chaz, it's race 13. Fine. First race, second race, third race, fourth race, fifth race. By race 13, you know the season is gone. Like, you cannot have that. Even Max turns up and says, I'm not winning another race. But even Max Verstappen turns up and tells you he's not winning another race for this year. Like, can you imagine that? Like,
Lewis will not go into the second half of the season thinking, I cannot win a race. If that is what he is thinking, he is no longer Lewis Hamilton.
I'm not saying that.
That is, I mean, literally word for word, that's what you just said. But anyway,
I said the championship, not winning.
The point here, though, is that Lewis has been used to being in an environment where he wins a lot. Even against George Russell, actually, he did pretty well in a car that you say he didn't get used to, and that feeling of winning is something that he now hasn't had for a while. But every time he has a really bad weekend, you can't. I don't think you can find me a weekend anytime between, even the middle of 2021, just look at what he looked like after qualifying in Brazil 2021. And literally, he says he was ready to throw in the towel at that point. So how the hell can we win, right? When he has a bad result like that, when something goes against him, whether it's something that he has done, something the team has done, something that has happened externally, like it or not, he will always comment about it. And I think people never had a problem with it until he started doing it at Ferrari, because Ferrari is so sacrosanct that you're not allowed to say anything. But
we don't know what's been said, Chaz.
You've got correct. This
and
is him holding
there's
back.
Also, can I just say this? There's a big gulf. Right? There's a big gulf between giving criticism and giving feedback, constructive or otherwise. And Chaz, if you and I have a problem, for example, we're not going to duke it out on YouTube, right? We're going to get on a private call somewhere and talk about this stuff. Well, yes, we do. You know what I'm saying? You do not have to put that out in the media, because when you do put it out in the media,
put out in the media, man?
Okay, what was this weekend? You tell me. Okay, you tell me. Ferrari should get another driver.
The whole time,
the second car was on pole. What does that mean?
The whole time he was self-deprecating. I am useless. Maybe they should get somebody else in that car.
But then it's followed up with there's something happening.
Charles has been doing the same thing.
But that's okay. Yeah,
it's different because when Charles does it.
No, I'm going to get to that too. But I mean, we jumped a little bit.
Why is it different when Charles does it?
Man, what do you mean? Why is it different when Charles does it? I don't understand why you're saying these two things.
Because
I just got done telling you that
both Lewis and Charles have criticized the team. Charles has done it on the radio. He's then done it in press conferences where he said there's stuff I cannot talk about. So why is that different to what Lewis says? Lewis was very self-deprecating.
It's different to what Lewis says because Charles put the car on pole and Lewis did not make it past Q2. That's the difference. It's different when Charles qualified P3 last week and he was out in it.
What about in Spa and Silverstone?
But my point is, you asked me why it's different. My point to you is it's different because it's coming on the weekends where he stinks. You see the difference?
And on the weekends where Charles doesn't do well, he then complains. I mean, it's the same.
He never said anything like, you go get another driver. And maybe they should get another driver because there's stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't think he actually, the difference in that? At no point do I think he actually means that. Like, I don't think he's actually sitting there going, I've had enough, I want to go. He's had a really bad weekend. And he said some stuff that in the heat of the moment, he has said, and it's not the first time that Lewis has done that.
I'm not saying he shouldn't say that, by the way. I feel his pain. I do not want to see that from him. But I can also see why the reaction to that would be the way it is. I mean, I don't want to, sidetrack us here. So, but look, this car isn't improving. So I don't know. You tell me how the next 11 races are going. There's no improvement coming from this car. It's done for this year. They're not bringing any other upgrades anymore.
No, and I think they need to focus on next year because that's probably their best chance to get themselves back closer to the front. I mean, I would say that I think part of Lewis's qualifying problems, not just this year, but all the way through this generation, it has been sort of exacerbated a little bit by the fact that the gaps are so much closer. I mean, he was out by 100th of a second.
True.
And normally, if he is 2 tenths off his teammate in a session, he's normally still going through, or they're both going out. But because it's so close, that it has made things worse for him. And then, starting down in P12, he got a terrible start, ended up P14, and then kind of fought his way. Well, didn't really fight his way back to P12. He kind of just sort of got there. And it's with a little help from Mr. Verstappen. But it was a horrible weekend. One that I think he will just put behind him. I liked his comments after the race to Ferrari, where he said, "Look, I'm going to come back stronger. I'll be there." He's putting a slightly more positive spin on things. But yeah, just horrible weekend. Terrible, not a great start to his career at Ferrari, but there's still time.
Yeah, and just your point about Ferrari aren't bringing any more upgrades. So I guess what's important about this upgrade is that it in and of itself is not there to bring a huge amount of performance. It's about 1/10 of a second improvement, which is not huge. But the deal is that having a more compliant rear end, being able to run it lower, and not have it bottom out, that's the theory anyway, means that they have more setup options. So actually, once it is better understood, and Lewis himself can find a comfortable zone at each track that allows him to extract the best from that car, that's what they're aiming for. It's not big chunks of lap time coming through aero development. It's through being able to set the car up in a way that they haven't been able to do up until now.
Yeah, just a quick point as well. It cannot be overstated how damaging that double DQ in China was. Massively so. It completely derailed Ferrari's season. Because I remember after testing, people were saying, "Oh, Ferrari are quick." McLaren was saying it, Mercedes was saying it, Red Bull was saying it. They're saying Ferrari are quick. And then they did the strange setup thing in Australia, and I remember Andrea Stella looking almost confused at how bad Ferrari were. And then Lewis showed his pace in the China sprint quali and sprint. And then, the race didn't go so well for them on the Sunday, but that double DQ for me was the moment that season went off the rails for Ferrari, and they have not recovered it. And I don't think they understand the root cause of that issue, which is believed to have been behind what happened with Charles today on lap 40.
Well,
but it's
according to George.
But people are trying to theorize and summarize what's going on, but it's tricky, very tricky.
Yes, it's tricky. It's heartbreaking in ways I cannot describe. Shez, you want to say something? Because I want to say something about Charles. I really do. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought before we move on to Charles, probably we should talk about the one incident that happened in the race that led to a stewards review where one party didn't even bother turning up.
Yeah. Why would he? What's the point?
Yeah. So Max Verstappen just come out the pit. He's on a brand spanking new set of tires. Lewis is continuing his race-long charge against Isaac Hadjar, and Max happens upon him and into turn 4. I love this overtaking spot. Like whenever somebody overtakes in turn 4 in Hungary, man, I pump my fist because it's awesome. And Max was pulling off all the moves today. He was so good, so good. So he comes up, he goes down the inside. Lewis ends up on the tarmac, or not on the tarmac, on the concrete on the outside of the corner. Max goes past, and suddenly we see an investigation. We see this will be investigated after the race. So I have 2 questions for the both of you. You can answer both. Amar, you first. First of all, was it a penalty? And second, should they have just made a decision during the race?
Was it a penalty in the end? What did they give in the end? I didn't see. No, it was not a penalty. It was not a penalty. Shez, my answer to both questions is who cares? Really, who cares? And you know what? I will tell. I'm going to tell you my answer. But I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I said that. It is so sad to see both of these greats fighting for something that is meaningless. It really is meaningless. And so, yes, should it have been a penalty? I don't think it should have been a penalty unless there was a crash. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say, just to answer your question. But I just want to say it made me feel really, really sad to see this happen. The back of the field. They should be fighting in the front.
So my thought on it is, and those of you who are familiar with my work on other platforms will probably expect me to say one thing, but I'm going to surprise you. A complete nothing burger of an incident. I don't even think Max was really going for that much of a lunge. I think he was trying to pressure, set Lewis up for an overtake into the chicane, which he'd done 2 or 3 times before that. And then Lewis just took to the concrete because he probably realised, well, we're either going to have an accident or this isn't my race. So yeah, it's they shouldn't have investigated it. It was ridiculous, and there was enough time in the race to investigate it when they had time to penalise. Was it Nico Hülkenberg for the collision with with
right at the beginning,
or whoever got the penalty for the collision with Behrman? I can't remember who it was. And then time to penalise Nico for the false start. So yeah, a complete nothing burger. Just racing basically, and why they had to put Max through that, I don't know. The fact that Lewis didn't bother turning up tells you everything you need to know. I will say Max is a bitch for his comments on Dutch TV, but that's just me.
Always bitchy about them. I thought Anyway, yeah, fine. Go on. You want to talk about Charles? Go.
You know what? I mean, I think this race should tell Charles that he needs to leave, especially if there's something going on in the background, which I have no earthly idea about. Like he should be. You know, guys, this race, when I saw qualifying yesterday, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. That car should not have been on pole. That car should not have even been in the top five. And well, that's kind of where it ended up, no? But it's just amazing to see Charles go through this process of dying in the car, like literally, emotionally, physically, mentally, to the point where his fight with Russell at the end completely deserved the penalty. I'm sure he would say that too, right? And it was like a who cares moment, right? Because he was driving angry. By the way, I'm so happy to hear him angry because one of his criticisms has been not vocal enough, yada yada yada. And I hope, Shez, did you get what you wanted? Because he said, hey, if you would have listened to me,
he's very good at being angry in the aftermath.
Yeah. So say it again.
He's very good at being angry in the aftermath, isn't he?
He was angry. Evidently, they're not listening to him.
When he needs to.
Well, I don't know what you want to do. They're not listening to him, and he said that. Now, of course, we don't know what the problem is because, to be honest, no one. I don't even think they know what the problem is. It could just be a red light that went off somewhere on some computer that said "slow down." That's probably what they listened to. Knowing Ferrari, they would do that. So there's that. I think this race should tell Charles that he needs to get the hell out of Ferrari. And I hate saying that. Because some of my most favorite memories over the last decade are with Charles, really. Even I don't even think about Alonso and Seb in the same way that Leclerc's delivered Monza a couple of times, delivered in Belgium, right? And I know there was some illegality sort of issue there, but that was fun. I would have rather, if this was a floor issue with Ferrari, I would have rather him just gun it to the end, make it to the podium, get disqualified. Because who cares? At least we got the championship. So at least we got the podium, rather, and the celebration, because that's what I wanted to see. But he's going nowhere, and he's wasting his prime. And guys, you saw what Leclerc could do with a car that's competitive. I mean, we've come on here and said George Russell fans say the same thing, right? If my driver had the car, we would be competitive. And Leclerc kind of showed the same thing. And it's just a shame. It pains me to see that Leclerc put a car on pole only to finish a good 30 seconds behind the two McLarens after leading a third of the race or more. Like, I don't even understand how to react to that. They shouldn't even race the next 11 races, in my opinion. Just forget it. Just don't even do that.
I completely agree with you that he needs to leave. What happened with Mercedes? We'll look after him. You know, him and George, or
that'd be great.
It would just be like, yeah, they'll be like, oh, look at these two. I mean, look, I fully understand Charles' desire to want to win with Ferrari. It's very admirable. I think it's, you know, I love the loyalty, but it's a fault. I'm sorry. Like, I just cannot see a path at the moment where he wins the championship with Ferrari, and a talent as good as him should be winning championships. I think he's fantastic. Yeah, there's a question in chat. Yeah, where should he go? As I said, Mercedes. Aston would be a good shot if they didn't go for Max. But yeah, as much as the story of Charles winning at Ferrari would be beautiful, given his family history and everything else, I just don't see it. I mean, you know, for clarity, I don't see Lewis winning his 8th at Ferrari at the moment, as much as it pains me to say that. But you know, we'll see.
I mean, just look at the way he led out of the first lap. He managed the race. I mean, we've talked here initially about, you guys were surprised being at the track, seeing him being the lead and managing the race. As I really, you know, when the race started, Chess, I did not believe we would have a shot at winning. Like, I did not believe that. But he gave belief, and then it all just went away. And to not even end up on the podium, I would have rather he crash into George and just be disqualified for the race. Like, that's what I wanted. Like, just why even bother talking to anyone? Like, that's what I wanted.
The Destruction Derby version of Ferrari. I like that. Look, I think the history of Ferrari in general is that it doesn't work with homegrown talent. That's not how they win championships. It's always been from people that have come externally. 1961 or 64, I think it was 1964. John Surtees won it.
64, yeah.
Came from outside. Yeah, you're very good at these, aren't you? Yeah. 1964, Surtees comes from outside. 1975, 6 and 7, Niki Lauda comes from outside the team.
I know,
1996, Michael
Kimi
Schumacher comes from
Raikkonen,
outside the team.
yes.
None of these drivers come from inside the team, because the problem with coming from inside the team is that you're just ingrained with that Ferrari DNA, which in some ways is great. I love the passion. I love the fact that you turn up to any racetrack in the world, whether it's Formula One, WEC, or GT3, and there's Ferrari fans there. There's Tifosi decking out the halls. I love that. And I love the brand and the image and all of that. It's amazing. But the DNA isn't one that's set up to win in Formula One anymore, if it ever was, really, because it's always needed something external to act as a catalyst to make it work. And that's why, amongst all of the conversations and stuff that have happened over this weekend, that I know we've all been involved in and have been quite emotional about, that's the truth of the matter. Ferrari don't win from within themselves. They win from bringing people in from outside and allowing that team, whoever comes in, having the strength of character to separate themselves from the management and do their own thing. Anything else doesn't work. And for me, Charles is too entrenched in that. And I think if he has to decide, and I think he already has, because he was asked this question directly: what's more important to you, winning a championship or winning it with Ferrari? And his answer was, if I'm going to win it, I'm going to win it with Ferrari, which is very much like the driver that he follows in the race in the tire tracks of, and that is Gilles Villeneuve. Villeneuve came into Ferrari. Yes, he came from outside, but he was grown as an in-house talent.
Yep.
And he was so loyal to the team. Like Enzo and him were like father and son. And in any other team, you look at what happened with Ron Dennis and Ayrton Senna at McLaren. Those two flourished. The team and the driver flourished together. But for some reason, when that happens at Ferrari, nothing happens. You get some glorious wins, you get some hope, and then it all comes crashing down again. And the only time it works is when you get Michael Schumacher, or you get Alain Prost, or you get Niki Lauda, or you get John Surtees. Any other system at Ferrari doesn't work.
Well, maybe to Baxley's point, there's good news. Toto Wolff went in the Ferrari garage, so maybe he did go and talk to Charles. Who knows?
Well, no, he's probably trying to get Lewis back, but
no, and
send Kimi the other way.
Oh my goodness.
No, I mean, I completely agree with everything Shez just said. I mean, it's true. It's you need an outside. That's why I think they hired Lewis in the first place to kind of give Ferrari the kick up the arse that they needed, because you haven't won a championship for 17, 18 years. It's getting ridiculous for a team like Ferrari not to win championships. I mean, I will say, like, there was so much support for Ferrari there. I mean, there was a noticeable increase in red today. I think that there was a big red contingent. There was a big orange Verstappen contingent as well. I mean, we walked past the fan zone yesterday, didn't we, when Charles and Lewis were on the stage?
It was just insane.
And the whole fan zone was packed, but there were people like hanging off the sides, just trying to listen to get a look at them. I mean, I compared it to the Sermon on the Mount. It was insane.
Yeah, it was like a religious event, wasn't it?
It was like
incredible.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And it was, I think, the support is there. The team, not harmony, but the team love is there. As I said earlier, like the reaction when Charles got pole was unbelievable. But yeah, I feel the best way to describe it is put your own ambitions before your ambitions with Ferrari, because even if it's a case if he goes away for a few years and then comes back and then can be like, right, this is how we win a championship. But I don't know.
Cool. I was going to say, I think we've been talking for an hour and 3 minutes, so I think we should probably wrap it up. But I did want to there's just a couple of quick questions in the chat that we can answer. Neil Williams has asked a couple of times now, guys, the result today was because of an issue with the car. You can't blame the team for that. I think the problem with it is that everyone's been quite vague. Like I don't think there's been any specifics. Charles said there was a chassis issue, and he was happy with the answer that the team gave after the race to him. I don't know what that means. What chassis should have cracked? Does they have to change his chassis? Does he need a repair? Was it just a nail in his tire like Esteban Ocon had? I mean, I don't know. And that's why all of this, not blame. It's just what's going on. I don't understand what is going on.
Well, but Ches,
don't have to tell me, but you know.
Can I push back on what Neil said? No, well, my instinctive reaction is if it was something that was uncontrollable, as what you said, right? Maybe, you know, a visor flap or something got stuck or something. I don't know, something like that, right? I mean, then they would tell us. And if they don't tell you, then my question is, who else do you blame but not the team? The FIA? Who do I blame for it? Like, who else is to be blamed? If there's something wrong with the chassis, blame the team. Was it pre-race? Something happened? Did I don't know? Did it fall off something? I don't know. Like what's going on here?
It's true. I mean, I remember Lewis Hamilton going back to the engineer at McLaren that created the faulty spark plug in his 2012 car that knocked him out of Singapore, and saying, "What the heck are you doing?"
You will never let go of that.
I don't think I've mentioned it before. Yoko asked, how did you experience the race live? Did you meet any of the drivers? Yeah. Well, we were separated for short periods of the weekend because we were in various queues for various things. So I didn't meet any drivers, but actually, did you meet any drivers?
Yeah, but all of them. No, I didn't meet any of the drivers. I mean, we didn't just watch the F1. We watched the sprint race for the F2 yesterday, which was fantastic. Alex Dunn was awesome.
Oh, mate, it was good.
You know, in the last lap, he nearly went round, because Pepe Marti went wide into turn 4, and Dunn stuck it up the inside and nearly got him. It was an amazing little battle that they had. I also think Marti should have got a penalty for brake checking Alex behind the safety car. And then we watched the Porsche Super Cup race today, which, to be fair, was 16 laps long, and Bert Mylander led most of them in the safety car because there was a massive lap 1 incident. And then as they were about to restart the race, somebody hit the wall, I think turn 9 or something, and then a tyre flew onto the track. So just literally with safety car ending, safety car stays out. But it was a good race. The one thing that really shocked me was how quiet the F1 engines are. They are so. I bought ear defenders with me because, you know, being a musician, I really need to protect my ears and everything else. I didn't have to use them once. Like the F2 cars, the F3 cars, and the Porsche supercars were all louder than the F1 cars. I could not understand that.
Quite amazing.
That's right. You heard it here. Bring back V8s now.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was you shouting in his ears, but okay, there's that. Yeah.
Amari, you weren't there. If you were there, they definitely would have been shouting in your ears.
I could see we'd be getting into a fight there, but it's okay. It's good we do this online. All right.
Right.
You guys want to get back safe, get back home, huh?
Yeah, it is time. Guys, thanks for listening to us ramble on. Baxi, thank you so much for being on and giving up some of your precious sleeping time to hang out with us.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
None of that, don't worry.
Let's see what is going on. And as usual, if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe. We do videos pretty much every week. Please leave us a comment after this. We'll read every single one. We'll reply to as many as we possibly can, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Later.